Alright guys, so here I am back, and I'm going to tell you guys what I used for my demo. The Pinterest picture that I went by was just a photo. It did not have any of measurements for the hoops, the bead sizes, or anything. And so mine came out quite a bit different from what I saw online. The person's there had crystals in, big crystals in here, and all kinds of stuff. Well, I don't have any hoops that are that different in size. What I've got here are some hoop components that I got at Joann's, and you get 24 in a pack for about, I don't know, a little over $4. What was fascinating to me was this trip they had this oxidized copper, they had black satin nickel or something like that, and oxidized bronze. So I grabbed a pack of each. And then inside the pack, you'll have 3 of these larger size ones and 3 of these smaller size ones that that kind of match each other. So this one, it has an inside diameter of 12. This one has an inside diameter, I tell you, I think I already forgot, but it's on the actual PDF that I wrote, and also in the blog post. This inside diameter is right about 25 on the inside. Anywho, so that's what you'll need there. You're going to need seed beads in 3 different sizes. I'm using all jet opaque. I have size 8, size 11, and a few size 15s. You'll need some 2.5 millimeter fire polish, and I have some of those laid out here. Can't think of the color of those right now, but they are, it is in my PDF and also in my blog post. And then you're going to need a 4 millimeter Monty if you want to do the center like I have done them here. I have some 6-pound fire line here, a couple of feet. I threaded it onto my beading needle. This is a size 11 pony needle. You can use a 10. For this project, it's not really necessary to have a really small needle. You'll go ahead and start by tying your thread onto your hoop. And just put the string through the hoop, tie 2 overhand knots, just like that. And then we're going to do brick stitch. I have 25 size 11 seed beads laid out here. And the reason I have 25 is because I've already done this component twice, and I know that 25 is a good number. So we always start brick stitch with 2 beads. So I pick up my 2 size 11s here, and I'll let them drop down to the hoop. Now, I'm going to take my needle, and I'm going to come through the inside of my hoop, like that. And I'm going to take my finger and hold my beads into position here above the ring. Now I'm left-handed, so I want to come up through the second bead I picked up. So it's going to be this one closest to the left. If you're right-handed, it's going to be the one on the right. Now, there's 2 ways to do brick stitch. I could straighten this bead right now if I wanted to, but I'm not going to straighten it up till I complete my row. We'll say, I think I've demonstrated how to straighten the first bead in another video, but if not, it's in several of my patterns. All right, so now for the remainder of the row, we're going to work 1 bead at a time. So pick up an 11-0. And if you'll note here how I hold the hoop up against my finger right there, this actually saves me from having to drop that bead down. It saves a step. I'll just go ahead and pick it up and slide that needle right underneath the hoop and use my finger to hold that bead into position right there on top of the ring. Then I can just come right back through my bead. Just like that. You may have seen people go ahead and do it this way. Pick up the bead. Have to drop it all the way down. Then you still have to hold it with your finger as you go through the underside of the hoop. And to me, it's just very clumsy to do it that way. I like my way. Then you come back up through the bead. I'll show you my way one more time because it actually works really well for me. So I pick up my bead. I've got my hoop laid up here against my finger like that. So now I'm going to just take my needle, pass it under just like that. And then as I pull, notice how that bead stays closer to where it's supposed to be. It's not all flopping around. Then when I pull it into position, it sits just like it's supposed to. Alright, so that's how you do brick stitch around a frame. You get your bead, you go pass your needle through the center of the hoop, then come from the front side and go back up through the bead you're adding. So I'm just going to continue on until I have my 25 beads added, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to show you how to close the beadwork, and then we'll move on. So I wanted to talk about one thing real quick before I finish this up. My ring or hoop has a slight dome to it, as you can see from when you look at it from this direction. So as I'm working my brick stitch, I'm making sure that my beads sit along this flat edge. Let me show you this way. Like this right here, they're sitting on this flat edge here. And I'm not putting them so tight that they bunch up together. They lay real nice and smooth when I take my finger along the edge like that. And that's what the look that you're going for. You do not want to pull this stuff so tight that you're bunching your beads together, but you also don't want it so loose that you have huge gaps in between the beads. Okay, so I'll go ahead and get my beads on and I'll be right back. Alright, so here I am back, and I have got my beads around my little frame here. This is my 25th bead, and that's my first bead, right there. So to close the beadwork and straighten this bead, I want you to pass down through bead 1 to the back side of your beadwork like that. Pull your thread through. Just like that. Now, come through the frame, just like we've been doing, with your thread and needle, and then go back up through that last bead one more time. And there we have closed our beadwork, and we've created the thread bridge on top of between the first and the last bead, just like that. What we're going to need for this next part is obviously our little ring that we just brick stitched, and our bigger ring. I'm going to come out a little. Now we're going to need 12 of our 8/0 beads. I'm just going to dump some out. And we'll need 12 of the little fire polish beads. Altogether, for one of these little components, you'll need 16 if you want to do the little X in the middle that I did here, per component. Alright, so here's my little circle that I've already got done. Here's my little bigger circle that I want to join together. So if you notice, I laid this larger circle on top of my thread. So my thread is underneath it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up an 8/0 bead. I'm going to start with the 8/0s. And it took me a while to figure this part out too, because the first thing I did on my first try was put the X in the middle. Then I wound up having to refinesse everything so that I could make it look very symmetrical and look really nice. So I decided just to start with putting the two hoops together, and then we can make the X afterwards. So now I've got the thread is underneath the large hoop. I've dropped down an 8/0 bead and I let it slide underneath that top hoop so that's sitting between this outer hoop and this 11/0C bead that my thread is exiting. Just like that. So now I'm going to come around the front with my thread and needle, and we'll go through the 8/0 bead and right back down through the same 11/0 bead where my thread was exiting. And give me just a moment because my light stinks. Alright, so there we go. So now my thread was in the back, and I'm just coming straight across the top, coming down through the 8/0 and the 11/0. And I'm going to pull it in there nice and snug. Just like that. I got lots of good sounds in this house today. That was the dryer. Alright, so now I need to come up through the 11/0. I'm going to work to the left, but if you're right-handed, work to the right. So I need to come up through that 11/0 and pass my needle under this outer frame here, so that my thread is on the back side of my beadwork, like that. Pick up your next 8/0. And this time, you have to, no choice but to drop them down. So you drop it down there and then wedge it in next to the other one, just like that. come across the frame on the front side, go through the 8/0 and back through the 11/0 where your thread is exiting, like that. And pull it all through. And once again, I have to step up. So I'm going to step up through that next 11/0 and then also under my frame. Alright, so now I got to do this one more time. Pick up an 8. Let it drop down like that. Get it in position. Then come across the top of the bead frame. Go through the 8 and the 11. Like that. Alright, so see, it's not hard at all. And make sure that you keep it nice, a good tension on it. Alright, so now I got to go up through my next 11 and under my frame. And now I'm going to zoom out just a little. Sorry. Alright, so the next step is to start with 3 of your little 2.5 millimeters. And you're going to just repeat the steps until you have 3 of your 8/0s here, then 3 2 millimeters, 3 more 8/0s, and 3 more of your 2 millimeters for a total of 12. Then I'm going to come back and I'm going to show you guys the step for skipping one to account for that 25th seed bead on the inner ring. Alright folks, so here I am, and I've gotten my first 12 of my 24 beads added. And I've come up through my next 11/0 and my thread is to the back of my bead frame like that. But let's talk about this for a few minutes, about this beautiful raised doming effect that I have here. That was a little side effect of, trying to figure out how to make this thing, but I liked it. So I think it really creates a really gorgeous look. And if you look here, you can really notice it here where we haven't added the beads yet. See how that's raised up slightly higher than the outer frame. And I love it. I think it's really cool. So, anywho, let's move on. I want to show you how to account for that one extra 11/0 seed bead here. So, I'm in position, like I said, coming out of my 11/0. My thread is to the back. And it's time for me to pick up an 8/0 seed bead. So, I'm going to pick my 8/0 up, and I'm going to drop it on down, just like we've been doing. And position it here. Now when I come through this time, I'm just going to come through the 8/0 by itself. And then I'm going to jump over and come down through this 11/0. Not the one below my 8/0, but the next one in line. I'm going to come down through that 11/0. Pull it nice and snug. And then I'm going to come up through the next 11/0. And back under my bead frame, just like that. And you can, now is the time when you work these next few stitches, you have a little leeway with your thread bridge that's going on the outside edge of your bead frame. So you'll be able to maneuver in case you get to kind of account for that little bit of a gap. So let's just move on and I'll show you what I mean. I'm going to take my next stitch just like normal. I'm going to pick up the 8/0. Bring it down, come through it, and the 11/0 where my working thread is exiting. So as you see, I've skipped that one little 11/0 here as far as the thread going up it. Alright, so now I can slide my thread bridge over just a little, like that, as I pull. I'm going to add another bead, another 8/0. I'm in the back. Drop it down. Come through over the frame, down through the 8/0 and the 11/0. And I'm going to wiggle my little threads over to keep that from having too big of a gap. Now I'm going to come up through my next 11/0 and back behind my frame. And I'm going to go ahead and add 3 of my fire polish. Then I'll add my last 3 8/0s and my last 3 fire polish. And I'll be back. I'll show you how to close everything up. Alright guys, so here we are. I've come all the way around and I'm getting ready to add this last fire polish. And as you can see, as you get back around now, by taking the little step to skip that 111/0, we work out the very end, works out perfectly. So I'll drop that bead into position. And I'm going to come across the top of my bead frame. And then I'm going to pass back through that fire polish in the 11/0. Just like that. Now, in this instance, all of our beads have a thread bridge between them. Between them and the frame. So there's really no closing up the beadwork step here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm coming out of this 11/0. I need to be, if I want to create the X pattern in the center, we will need to be coming out of this 11/0 underneath one of our 3rd fire polish beads for it to look right. So I'm going to work myself up through these 2 beads to the left, the 11/0 and the 8/0. And now again, I'm on the back side of my beadwork. No, actually I'm on the front side of my beadwork, and that's fine. That's where I want to be. I don't want to create another thread bridge on the outside of this frame. So just coming out of that 8/0 right there, I'm going to pass down through just the fire polish to the right. Pull that into position. Don't pull too tight right there. And then come down the 11/0 underneath the next fire polish bead. Like that. And now we're in position here in the middle one of these 3 fire polish beads. Let me see. There we go. Alright, so now we want to add this little X, and I'm going to show you how to do that. You'll need to pick up a 15/0, a fire polish, then pick up the 4mm Monty, then a fire polish, and a 15/0. Go ahead and let that drop down. We're coming out of this 11/0 in right beneath this this middle fire polish bead here. We're going to go up through the 11/0 and the fire polish bead directly opposite on the hoop. You pull that into position and make sure that your beads are sitting in the middle of the frame like that. Now come back down through just the fire polish to the left or the right, it doesn't matter which one. And then come back down through the 11/0 underneath that middle fire polish on this side of the beadwork. And we're just going to go back through these beads in the center. Give a little reinforcement here. Make sure that you get through your Monty and you're not skipping any of your beads. If it works better for you to go from behind, you can flip your work over. Which it might work better for me also. Alright. Well, I'm having trouble getting my fire polish here. I'll have to tilt for a minute. There we go. Alright, so now I've come through all those beads. I'm going to pull them a little bit snug. And make sure that my little 15/0 stays in the middle here. I'm going to go back up through the 11 and the fire polish bead on this side of my beadwork. I'd have to take them one at a time. Never fails, I always have trouble when I'm on video. Alright, so now I'm coming up through the fire polish. And I'm going to pull that nice and snug. So now we need to work around till we're coming out of the beads here on these perpendicular fire polish beads. In order to do that, I'm just going to work around the 8/0 beads. Don't cross back over your bead frame. Just go up and down through a fire polish and 8/0. Then your 8/0s. And if you needed to firm up your beadwork a little bit, you could use the 11/0s too if you had to. All right, so now I'm over towards where I want to be, but I need to be coming down through the 11/0, so I'm going to come down just through the fire polish here to the left. Then I'm going to go into the 11/0 back towards the center of my beadwork that's underneath that middle fire polish bead right there. Now we can pick up a 15 and a fire polish, and we're going to go through the other hull of our Monty, just like that. Pick up your fire polish, then your 15, and go through the 11/0 and the fire polish on the opposite side. Make sure that your beads are all inside the frame, like that. Now we need to reinforce, so I'm going to come down through that fire polish to the right or left, either one. Then I'm going to come back through the 11/0 that's underneath my middle fire polish bead here. Just like that. And I'm going to go back through my beads in the center, making sure not to skip anything so I don't have exposed thread. And then I'm going to go back up through the 11/0 and the fire polish on this side. And if you need to reinforce that and tighten that up a little bit, you can reinforce it as many times as you need to. But this is what it should look like at this point. And then there's the back, all nice and cupped evenly and pretty. And here's the front. Now, we'll talk about the earrings, how I did those. I stitched over, you can determine to run the X either way you like it. I wanted mine to look like this little X. So I stitched over till I was coming out of this center 8/0 bead here. And then I just brick stitched 2 beads onto the outside edge of this frame. I came back up through those 2 beads, or one of those 2 beads I should say. I picked up 3 more and made this little loop. Went down, come back up and reinforced it, and then stitched my thread off. The reason I want to choose an 8/0 here is because I could get my jump ring right through the 8/0, and I like the way that looks. Then I made that jump ring and the cute little ear wire out of that deep, rich copper. So that's how you would go about doing it. I can show you how you would brick stitch the 2 8/0s real quick. But I'm not going to create a bail at this time on mine because I'm going to make this into a pendant. So I'm going to add some more beads on the outside edge of this and do a little bit more decorative work to it. I might do a video later on that shows you guys how to make this into a pendant, but for now I'm just showing you how it's done with earrings. So I've got 2 beads here picked up. My thread is exiting to the front of my beadwork. So I'm just going to let those drop down. Then you can take your needle. Now, of course, you would want to stitch around to where you want your bail to be. Take your needle, come under your bead frame, just like that, in between those 2 fire polish beads, or whatever 2 beads you're positioned at. You're going to come up through the second bead you picked up, just like we did for the very first brick stitch on our little frame, like so. Then you're going to come down through bead 1 to the back, come through your bead frame, again, between 2 of your fire polish beads, and then come back up through that bead, just like that. And now you have your 2 brick stitched 8/0s on the outside frame. I'm not tightening mine up because, like I said, I really don't want to leave it here. I'm going to be making a pendant. But then you would just pick up your next 3 8/0s. You would come down through this opposite 8/0 like so. And there's a cute little bail with an 8/0, so you can use a wire there. But you're more than welcome to do anything you want with it. Alright, folks. Give me just a moment and we'll end this video. Alright, so anyway, just wanted to jump back and show you guys once again how I finished these off. And remind you that if you need help with the brick stitch around a frame, I have a PDF on my website. You can download if you're a subscriber on my website to my newsletter. I'll have a pattern available for this pendant available this weekend, which you can purchase. And that's about it, folks. So make sure that you subscribe to my channel. Head on over to thealluringboutique.com and subscribe to my newsletter there. Once you create your account and sign up for the newsletter, you'll be able to download a lot of free PDFs and have access to discounts on patterns and jewelry. Alright, so thank you guys for watching and have a great weekend.